Hello, my friends. Hello, 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 hello. It's 8 o'clock on the dot. I'm actually on time today. Tried to do something with this hell of a freaking mop on my head, but yes. Hello, Lisa Maria. I am ready. My hair's not ready for it, but it's okay. Whatever. It's not a beauty pageant. Hello, Savannah. Hi, everybody. We are waiting to do an interview with Kaysie. I know her last name's not Carpenter, but Kaysie Carpenter. Hi, JG. Hi, Diane. Oh, thanks, Savannah. I look like a hammer, but it's okay. You know what? Atlanta weather. Hi, Rhonda is like bad for hair. Hi, Vicky. Like, I don't know if any of you guys live in the South. Thanks, Make Money. It's not working. Hey, Brat. Yeah, so this is what is going to look like until I can make the big announcement Tuesday. You guys will see me Tuesday looking much better. I know, Brat, right? Hey, Sandra. Barnes. I know her last name, but I just say Carpenter because, you know. Yes, plug the charger in. Boston, it was dreary today. Oh, I wish it would be. I know, Savannah. It's like that southern freaking weather. It's like a bitch. I'm like, where is fall? You guys keep hitting like so we can get more people in here. Hey, Wister, I really want hi Beck. I really want us to have a lot of support for Kaysie, you guys. I don't know who this is who's trying to get in. So I really want to have a lot of support for Kaysie, you guys. The sound is kind of weird. Is my sound weird for you guys? Oh, I know, Cookie. Believe me, I know that 716 weather is looking like I want to be home for sure. Sounds good. Okay. Thanks, guys. So I've been talking to Kaysie today, and she is, should be here. So I will tell you guys very quickly the overview, high-level overview. Vegas is never hot make money, right? So I'm like not on sync. My lips and my voice are not on sync. Hey, ID. Thanks for being here. I hope Kaysie can figure it out. I mean, I know that Kaysie is on. Where is she? I don't see her. I don't see Kaysie yet. Okay, you guys can see and hear well? Yeah, I did cut. I have hit guests, and I'm not seeing her in there. Oh, there we go. Okay, I just saw her. I just invited you, Kaysie. Yeah, if you guys want to tap, give us some love. Give Kaysie some love as well. I know a lot of Kaysie's friends and family are watching tonight. And I just want to say, first of all, your very first interview with me. Kaysie's joining us right now. Kaysie Barnes, but I've been calling her Kaysie Carpenter. I know that's not your name, Kaysie. But, of course, my dogs have to start. Kaysie, do you know how to put your camera on? Do you want to put your camera on so we can see you? Kaysie?
Yeah, I've got it. I'm sorry.
Oh, hi, Kaysie. Do you want to put your camera on so we all can see you? I have, you guys, I think most of you guys who are in here know if you're moderators. So if you're a moderator, please start moderating for me. I see, I think Beck, Savannah are in here. I think you guys are both, I'm going to get my dogs out of here, you guys. Moderators, and go get it, Chopper, go get it. So if you guys could mod for me so we can make sure that there's no drama. I don't want anyone blocked. I just want, thanks, Nick. I just would like you guys to mute people. Kaysie, can we see your face? We'd love to see your face so we don't have to just look at me.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm sorry.
It should be in the more buttons, and then you just hit camera.
More buttons. More.
At the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, Greta, you are a mod too. I think I have quite a few mods in here, which is, we're not going to need it tonight because there's going to be no drama, but hi, Kaysie.
Hey.
But we want to make sure that there is mods here. If you guys want to keep tapping that heart so we can get some love for Kaysie and have lots and lots of people come on and watch this, because I'm I'm really honored that you guys chose to do this interview with me. I see that picture of Kirby in the background with you, which is, oh, it's such a nice picture. He was very handsome. It's like
Thank
so
you.
many people commented on that. Like, oh my God, he was a very, very handsome man.
Boy.
Just such a loss. So we're going to just give it like, well, it's 8:05 and people are still jumping on, but we'll get started. And first, just guys, for you guys who don't know me, for you guys who aren't following of me, my name is Cindy, 716 girl in ATL. Thank you for the hat. Originally from Buffalo, keep Buffalo safe. I'm wearing my keep Buffalo a secret, because us Western New Yorkers want to keep it a secret. So 716 girl in ATL. I cover true crime. I used to be an investigative reporter for CBS, and so I love talking all things crime, and I do love the Bills, like Andrea said, go Bills. So today, you guys, we have Kaysie with us, Kaysie Barnes, and I've been calling you Carpenter because that's everybody knows the last
That's
name.
okay.
Carpenter. And I really appreciate you, Kaysie, first of all, being here, taking the opportunity to be with us. I know this is not an easy conversation that we're going to be having. I know that. You can answer what you feel comfortable answering, not answering anything if you don't want to. This is we're going to make this interview as easy and as comfortable for you as possible. So I would encourage the people who are watching right now via the comments. If you guys have questions and comments for Kaysie, please post them. We will, if Kaysie's okay with it, as well to have you guys ask questions in the box so we can see who's asking them. So with that being said, Kaysie, do you want to give sort of a brief overview of Kirby's case for those of you who don't know, or do you want me to? I mean, you could do it way better than me.
It doesn't.
Yeah, why don't you start, Kaysie? Because
Okay.
we do have quite a few people on here who, you know, I've been teasing Kirby, with almost 300 people here. I'm sure there's some who don't know Kirby's story. So I'll turn it over to you, and you can tell us all about Kirby.
Okay. So first of all, I just want to thank everybody for the support that we have received so far. It has been amazing. You know, we created the Justice for Kirby Facebook page because we felt like Kirby's story was not getting the recognition that it needed. We felt like that there was a lot of things that were not being done that needed to be done. We thought that maybe it would put a little bit of heat on law enforcement, a little bit of heat on the people who killed him. And so we reached out, and we never dreamed that we would get the support that we've gotten so far. I appreciate you asking me to do the interview with you. I want everybody to understand that I was very apprehensive about it for many reasons, which are obvious, but mostly because it is something that's very hard for me to talk about. You know, I've kind of been, as Angie said earlier, in robot mode since this happened because I've had to be for my family. But there are times when, you know, it's extremely hard to talk about. And when we created the Facebook page, it brought all of those raw emotions back. So we've had lots of questions and lots of ideas from people that have been very well thought out, very supportive, and we've appreciated that. But for those of you who are here, Kirby was my little brother. He was 36 years old. He had 2 children, a little boy named Towns, who was 5 now. He was 4 at the time that Kirby was killed. And a little girl, Enola, and she's a year old now. Kirby was a very, very, very smart person. He was a businessman. We watched him go from having nothing at all at one point in his life to becoming a self-made millionaire. He worked hard for everything that he had. He had a gold, silver, and coin exchange here in town that he opened back several years ago. He was very, very successful with that business. He opened a wine and spirit store here in Ripley, and eventually he sold that, and he opened another wine and spirit store in a nearby town, Boonville. Was very successful there, and he actually had sold that as well. He had several real estate properties. Honestly, anything that he saw about, he could figure out a way to make a dollar from it.
I think, I'm not to interrupt you, but that's one of the things that I noticed. It seems like everything he touched, he was very, like his cars, like he was very passionate, but also, so he took pride in those, was very passionate, but was also great at like everything he touched, it seemed like.
Absolutely. And part of that, I think, is because everything that he chose to do was things that he was already passionate about. You know, when he was a kid, he got interested in coins, and was involved in doing things like that with Boy Scouts, instruments, guitars, things like that. And he made his career out of things that he loved doing. And that's why he was so successful at it, I feel like. So for those of you who don't know Kirby's story, and I hate to call it Kirby's story because Kirby's so much more than what happened to him. And we hope that y'all have been able to see that through our Facebook post. And of course, I mean, people that are from the area, everybody knew Kirby. He was the person that he walked in the room, and most of the time, you know, he was the life of the party. He was smiling. He was helpful to people. I couldn't tell you how many people have come up to me since this happened that's had a Kirby story. I saw him at a gas station and I was low on cash and he bought my gas. Or me and my wife were in the restaurant Kirby was in and we got ready to go pay for our meal and Kirby had already left and they told us he had taken care of it. You know, just little things like that. That's who Kirby was. But Kirby, on November the 30th, he was murdered. I'm sorry, I can't say that on here, can I?
It's okay.
That happened to him.
Yeah, we just have to be careful, but it's okay. I'll get it work. It's okay. Yeah, there's certain words we're not supposed to say.
Okay, so let me just take you to December the 2nd. I was eating Mexican at the Mexican restaurant with my husband, and my phone rang, and it was from my mother's phone. And when I answered it, there was a male voice on the other end of the line, and I could hear somebody screaming in the background, and I immediately identified that it was my mother. He said, "This is so-and-so with Dry Creek Fire and Rescue, and there is a deceased male victim here." And in the background, all I could hear was my mother screaming, "My baby, that's my baby." I didn't know what had happened, had no idea, you know, no idea what had happened, but I knew something was terribly wrong. So we immediately left the restaurant, went straight to my brother's home where we found out the horrible, horrible news. You know, looking back now, there's lots of things that we can look back and see, you know, leading up to those 2 days, we have all those questions about. But on that day, Kirby's girlfriend had texted my mom that morning. And I shared this on the Facebook page, so if there's anybody out there who wants to go back and read, you know, detailed information about it, you can. But his girlfriend texted mom that morning, and she said, you know, I haven't heard from Kirby. Have you heard from Kirby? And was asking, you know, basically just had she heard from him? She didn't know where he was. And so my mom started questioning, you know, no, I hadn't heard from him. And in their conversation that they were having, mom realized that she was meaning that she had not heard from him, not just that morning, but over a period of a couple days. And so she said, girlfriend's name, "What do you mean you haven't heard from him since Wednesday? Like, that scares me." She was like, "Was he meeting anyone to do like a gold silver deal? Like, what do you know?" And the girlfriend said, "You know, I don't know. He doesn't always tell me about his day. The last time I saw him was on Wednesday. And now this is, mind you, on Friday." So my mom, she was at work and she said, "I will put an APB out on his ass." The girlfriend immediately responded and said, "Let me tend to the dog." They have a little dog. This is Hermosa, is his name, her name. She said, "Let me tend to the dog, nurse the baby, and then I'm going to bundle the baby up and we're going to walk up to the deer stand and see if maybe he's up there." So mama's like, "Well, I'm at work. Do you need me to send my sister over or anything?" And she was like, "Well, I'll just let you know, after I go to the deer stand." So about 30 minutes time had passed, give or take a little. And my mom received a call back from the girlfriend. And she said, "Well, I walked up to the deer stand and he wasn't there." And just a couple seconds passed, and my mom heard her say, "Kirby, Kirby, Kirby," 3 times. And the phone disconnected. And mom knew something was wrong. She immediately walked out from work and she called my stepdad. My mom's house is, between 5 and 10 minutes away from her. Told my you need to get to Kirby, something's wrong, get to Kirby's. So they are both on their way to Kirby's. My stepdad gets there, and he's the first person there besides for the girlfriend. He said that he pulled into the drive, rather quickly. He didn't know if something was wrong with the baby. He didn't know what he was responding to. So he said he got out of the truck and walked toward the house. And as he said, he didn't hear anything, didn't see anything. He said as he was about to walk onto the garage, he heard the girlfriend's voice. She screamed. She was upset. She was on the phone with the 911 operator. And he turned to see her kneeling on the ground just a few feet away from Kirby's body with the baby. As most of you have heard, he was laying. Kirby's house was here. His truck was parked right in front of the garage. He never actually used the garage. They had a lot of things stored in there. The garage door was up next to his truck. There's a metal carport, and his body was on the far side of the metal carport, next to some toolboxes that go like on the back of a truck. And he was covered with a covering, and one of those toolboxes was laid off sideways on top of that covering. My stepdad said when he saw him, he thought, oh my gosh, a toolbox has fell on him. He said that was his first thought. And he said he started to go toward him like to move the toolbox. And he said all of a sudden he realized, wait, why is he covered up? About that time, the nearest law enforcement officer had arrived to the home. He was actually the school resource officer. Kirby's house is just maybe 2 miles at the most, maybe from the school. The officer pulled up. He got out. He walked over to where they were, and he said, we've got people coming on the way. And my stepdad said, he had pulled the covering down from over his face, and he said that he saw Kirby's eyes looking at him, and he said he could see the wounds, and he knew he was gone, and there was nothing that anybody could do. When the officer walked up, the girlfriend said, oh my goodness, Kirby's killed himself. He's committed suicide. And the officer said, ma'am, this is a homicide. And of course, I wasn't there for any of that, but that's what, my stepdad told us had happened. We got there, and of course, they wouldn't let any of us come up the hill next to his home. We had to stay at the bottom of the hill. My mom was there. It was very, very difficult, and has continued to be very difficult to see the pain that my mama is in. It's been really, really hard losing Kirby and dealing with that grief of my own. I have 2 girls, and both of them loved their Uncle Kirby. My littlest girl, before she could speak clearly, Uncle Kirby was her favorite person. And it's been really, really hard for all of us. And it's been just as hard having to see my mama hurt over and over and over again, trying to figure this out, So that's been very difficult. But, initially, when this first happened that day, we were all so grief-stricken and in shock. We didn't know how to process this, I guess. I mean, none of us, thank God, have ever dealt with this before, and it's the worst thing any of us have ever had to deal with. And so we weren't thinking, clearly at the time as far as what exactly happened. It was more of, oh my gosh, someone's killed him. He's not here. We're dealing with the loss. We're dealing with all of that. And we're not trying to point fingers. We're not trying to pinpoint. Of course, we're like wanting to know who would have done this, who could have done this to Kirby. But we're not just, digging the clues like we've been able to do going backward. So at one point we all left. I stayed on the scene longer than anyone else because I couldn't stand the thought of him being there without people who loved him. So I stayed there for a while. Everyone else gathered at Mom's. When I did leave, I went to Mom's. Several of us sat out in the carport, and of course we had, lots of people there, to show support for us and to be there for us. But we were just in shock, and we were trying to figure out what happened. Kirby's girlfriend was there with one of her friends, and the baby. We did ask several questions because she was the last one who had seen him. We asked her, when's the last time that you saw him? And she said on Wednesday morning, whenever I was leaving to go to work, he was still in the bed asleep. I said, well, when's the last time you heard from him? And she said on Wednesday night. She actually took her phone out of her pocket, looked and said, scrolled on the phone, and she said it was at 6:30. She didn't state what the context of that text was at that time. And actually, we didn't know until we got the phone back from law enforcement after they had it for several months. But his last text was telling her his location that night. She was asking, where he was. She wasn't home at the time, and that was the last text that he sent her. So when law enforcement officers that night decided to, I guess, declare the scene to be cleared, that they had processed what they felt like they needed to process at that time, they called my stepdad and they said, hey, we need the girlfriend and you or someone to come down. Let us give you all, the okay, y'all can come in the home, whatever. So my stepdad asked me, would I go with the girlfriend back to Kirby's house, see what law enforcement needed us to do from there. So I get in my car, drive there, in her car, and comes down there, and we get down there. She was asked to sit in the car with one of the MBI, the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation officers. She had asked me to tend to the baby while she was able to talk to her for a while, and question her about some things. After that was done, they told us, no one needs to stay here tonight, which, none of us would have dreamed of staying there that night. But they said, you can go in with her to get her and the baby some things. So we walked inside. She and I did. She had the baby. She walked straight to the nursery, sat the baby down in the rocker there, and she leaned up against the changing table. And she kind of slid herself down the wall, and she looked up at me and she said, Kaysie, I did not hurt your brother. And I said, no one said that you did. And she said, do I need a lawyer? And I said, do you need a lawyer? And she said, the questions that lady asked me, she makes me think that they think I had something to do with this. And I said, you're the last person who saw him. You're his significant other. They're going to ask you questions. We left. We went to my mom's. My sister lives in another state. She and her husband had come in. They were all going to stay at mom's that night. Me, my husband, and girls came home later that night to try to get some rest. Got up the next morning. We went and got some breakfast from one of the restaurants to take. There was a lot of people at the house there. We wanted to make sure everybody had food. We got there the next morning, I would say probably around 9:30, and walked in, and I was going to go, check on the baby when I got there. And we got to mom's, and I looked around, the girlfriend, the baby wasn't there. And so I went to my sister, and I was like, hey, where's girlfriend and Enola? And she said, well, she went back to the house her parents are supposed to be in here soon. They're on their way. And I said, did they go by themselves? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, is it even safe? Is that safe for her to be there with the baby, by herself? And she was like, I don't know. She just said she needs to go meet her parents. Which brings me back to the point of her parents. And I know that you've covered this on your videos, and we've covered it on our Facebook. But for those of you who don't know, Kirby and his girlfriend had a baby together. She was born on July the 23rd. At the time she was born, the girlfriend's parents came to stay with Kirby and the girlfriend to help, with the newborn baby. And Kirby had told us several times, that they were very helpful. That a lot of times, the baby would wake up at night and they would just come get her and tend to her and let them get some sleep. It was our understanding. I know Kirby had told us, and the girlfriend had told us, that they were planning on staying for a week or so to help, until she got to feeling better. But they never left. They stayed for 4 months. And in fact, on Friday night when we were all at mom's, that was one of the questions that I asked the girlfriend. I said, when did your parents leave? Because we had Thanksgiving at Kirby's house the previous Thursday, and they were there. And that following Monday, the girlfriend had messaged me and told me, she was like, hey, Kirby and my parents are kind of under the weather. Are you guys all feeling okay? And I was like, yeah, we're fine. And she's like, well, I think they may have the flu. So I knew that her parents had not, they were still there on Monday when she and I had talked. So I was like, when did your parents leave? And she said, well, they left Tuesday night. Investigators determined that Kirby was killed on Wednesday night.
So one day.
Yes.
One day
Yes.
before he was killed.
Yes.
One day before. I just want to make sure that people understand that.
Right.
Her family left one day before Kirby was shot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, there's a lot of questions surrounding that. I mean, it's very coincidental, that they leave on Tuesday and he's killed on Wednesday. And the reason a lot of people have asked also, if he wasn't found until Friday, how do y'all know that he was killed on Wednesday? And that's because the investigators, they went through his pockets, of course, and he had a receipt from Kroger. He had gone to do some grocery shopping on Wednesday night. He had bought some steaks there, and the groceries from Kroger were still in his truck. So he never even had an opportunity to get those out of his truck. And the investigators went on Saturday morning to Kroger, and they pulled the security camera footage, and they saw exactly where he was there, what time he left, and he was still wearing the same clothes when he was found on Friday that he had on when he was in Kroger on Wednesday night. So that's how they come to the conclusion that it had to have happened on Wednesday night. So that leaves everyone with the question of what happened from Wednesday night until Friday. I think I've said it many times. You've said it. Most everyone who's shared it in their videos has said, we're not making accusations. We have 24/7. It has been on our minds. It's all we can focus on. It's all we can think about. It's all we can talk about. We have tried to make everything make sense in our minds, and there are just still so many unanswered questions. So, looking back, actually on that Thursday, well, let's just go back. So on Wednesday night, they think that this happened to him when he got home from Kroger, which would have been sometime around 7 p.m. At that time, the girlfriend is thought not to. She was seen somewhere else around that time, and that's verified by law enforcement. So it's possible that she was not there at the time that he was killed. We did ask her in the carport at mom's that Friday night, how did you not hear anything? Did you not see anything? And she said, no, me and the baby were sleeping upstairs. We didn't hear anything. We asked her, so you were coming and going for 2 days, and he's out here in the yard, and his truck is parked at the entrance of the garage. Did you not see anything? And she's like, no. And we were like, did you go? Where did you go during those 2 days? That Thursday morning, she took Enola to the doctor for a scheduled visit. She actually did text me and Mom both on Thursday and told us it was a little sticker, that they give you at the doctor's office with the baby's height and weight and everything to keep track of their growth. She had sent me and Mom both a little picture of that. I, responded and was like, oh, she's growing, and she said, yeah, but she tested positive for the flu today. And we were like, oh, no. And during that text conversation with me and Mom, she did say, by the way, have either of you guys heard from Kirby today? Or has Sean, which is my husband. Sometimes they would, talk to one another. And I was like, no, haven't heard from him. I assumed he'd go to the doctor with you. And she was like, no, he's not with me. Never said anything else about it. In response to Enola having the flu, my mom said, hey, I have Pedialyte at my house. If you want it, for Enola, don't go buy any. So she's like, okay, well, I'll come by and get it later. In fact, that afternoon, when I went to pick my little girl up from my mom's because she had stayed over there that evening, when I went to pick her up, the girlfriend and the baby were at my mom's, and I was actually a little bit pissy because the baby had the flu, and when I got there, my little girl was all in the baby's face. I told my little girl, I was like, get out of her face, she's sick. We had a conversation there. She never once mentioned to us again, like, hey, I still haven't heard from Kirby, or Kirby didn't come home last night, or, I don't know where he is, any of that. Which is, strange to me because she had text earlier that day and was like, hey, by the way, have either of y'all heard from Kirby? But not, she's sitting here looking at us in the face. We're playing with the baby. And she doesn't bother saying anything about, well, he didn't come home last night. His truck's there, but he's not there. So when we were talking to her, on that Friday night, we were like, well, tell us about Friday. What happened what happened today? What did you do today? And she said, I had to get up to go to an appointment. And she said, I woke up late, so I didn't even worry about finding Kirby or anything. I just, I didn't worry about waking Kirby up or anything. I just got myself ready, and I was running late, so I grabbed the baby and took her with me to my appointment. And, she didn't say anything about, see, Kirby, he had a pretty, I don't want to say a common routine, but I mean, he was going to drink his coffee every day, and he was going to take like an hour-long bath every day. That's just how he was. But, for 2 days, she was coming and going, and my stepdad even asked her that Friday night, he said, so your vehicle where she parks, it's closer to come out the front door. And so my stepdad even said to her, so Kate, you park on this side, you must have come and gone out of the front door. And she was like, no, I use the garage door. So for 2 days, she was using the garage door, going in and out, walking right past Kirby's truck. And I do have a video, but I've said the girlfriend's name a couple of times in it, and I'm not going to disclose that. So I need to go back and make another video so I can show you all exactly how the vehicles were parked. But she had to walk.
I'm sorry, Kaysie, not to interrupt you. Disclose that I am not a nice person, and I did disclose that on one of my videos. So if anybody,
I have no problem with what anyone else discloses.
Right. If anybody's curious, if anybody wants, we are not going to be mentioning her name on this live out of respect for the family. But if anybody is curious, you can go watch one of my videos because I have my own thoughts about this. Go ahead, Kaysie. Sorry.
No, you're good. So it's just a whole lot of questions about that. It's a whole lot of questions surrounding that. So it's easy to look back and have all these questions, but like I said, at the time, a lot of people have told us, did y'all not think about that at the time? We weren't thinking clearly at all at that time. So we'll fast forward to the next day. Okay. So on Saturday, the day after Kirby was found, we go to the house, girlfriend and baby are not there. They've gone back to the home to wait on her parents to arrive. We're all at mom's. Later on that day, I would say probably around lunchtime. I don't know exactly what time it was. She and her dad showed up to the house with the baby. Notice I say she and her dad. Her mother never came to mom's. She never came to offer condolences. She never had any interaction with us at that time. The dad was there for maybe 30 minutes. He spoke to everyone. He left. The girlfriend was there for maybe about 2 hours. She was distant. People have asked me how she acted at that time. In my opinion, she was distant. She stayed outside in the front yard a lot with one of my mother's sisters. She didn't talk a whole lot. When she got ready to leave that day, I did go to get snuggles from the baby before she left. I helped her put the baby in the Suburban. And I just asked her, I said, who would want to do this to my brother? Who would have killed my brother? And she said, well, to me, it was probably meth heads. And I said, but why? For what? And she said, for money. And I said, it just doesn't make sense. If meth heads had done this, they wouldn't have taken the time to move him from where he was killed, drag him to the other side of the metal carport and cover him. And I said to her, I said, whoever did this covered him up, most likely because they didn't want to see what they'd done.
Yeah, and I agree.
Immediately, I felt a change in her. She shifted her whole body in a different direction and kind of shut down. She left at that time. I don't think I talked to her anymore that day. Of course, we stayed at mom's all day. People were coming and going. And then the next day on Sunday, this is 2 days after Kirby was found. On Sunday, Mom and I, we were talking, and I was like, hey, let's go down and check on the baby. And she and I had been talking. Kirby had always told me and Mom both that if something ever happened to him, that he would have his final wishes written, that he had his final wishes written, and that they would be in one of his safes. Kirby had one room in his house that had The walls were just safes. That's all it was. It had guns, silver, gold, lots of valuables, that kind of thing in it. And he told us, he was like, you know, down to what he wanted to be buried in. If you see his pictures, you can tell he liked to look good.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I told Mom, I was like, let's go down, check on the baby, and we can see if we can find something with his final wishes. You know, we're going to have to think about those things. So we get down there to his house, and there is actually on the side of his truck, there is a gun box, like a cardboard gun box. I'm assuming probably one of Kirby's guns was in it, that they had taken and used for a sign, and they had tied it to the side mirror on his truck, and like on one side to a chair, and it said, "Please, no visitors today. Allow privacy for grieving." You know, which I understand. You know, people need their time and their space and everything. Of course, me and Mom didn't consider ourselves visitors. I mean, you know, we were at Kirby's all the time, and so her dad was standing outside, kind of next to the sign when we got there, and I had a conversation with him. My mom's phone was ringing. She took a phone call, kind of walked up the hill, so that she could get serviced, and he and I had a conversation about some things. And then when Mom got off the phone, she came down the hill and she was like, "Hey, I need to use the bathroom." So she goes toward the house to go inside. I follow inside, go straight in and see the baby, who is sitting there with the girlfriend's mother. And the girlfriend's not there. And so I'm like, where's she? And her dad says, "Oh, she's gone to a friend of hers, to have a little girl time, you know, get away for a minute." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I started looking around and I started noticing some things. One of the things that I noticed was that he has these two doors, and you can see them in the video that I show of the hill, these two doors. And so I noticed in the backyard there's like tire tracks where something has been pulled to the back door. And I'm thinking, well, that's strange. You know, that wasn't here Friday. And then I look around and it looks like the doorknobs had been changed. Mom went in the bathroom. She came back out. She talks to the baby for a minute, and then she turns around to go toward the room where Kirby's safes are. Because, like I said, we had intended to see if he had his final wishes in there. Let me just say at this point that on Friday night, when we went back down there, Mom opened those safes to make sure that they had not been cleared out or anything. She was able to gain access into those safes that day. Mom's always had the codes to his safes. She's always had them. It didn't appear like anything was going on Friday night. So we're there on that Sunday. As soon as my mom approaches the safe room, the girlfriend's dad follows her to the door of the safe room. And I can hear him from the other side of the wall. Like I said, I'm sitting playing with the baby at the time. And I hear him say, "Now, Maddie, this is what I'm talking about. We don't need you down here causing problems." And so I'm like, what is going on, you know? And so I go around the corner and he's like standing in the doorway, you know, kind of talking to her confrontationally, I guess you could say. And I'm like, "Excuse me, how is she causing problems? Like, we have to bury my brother." And he says, "Well, we just don't need any problems." And my little girl was with us. And I don't know if it's because she came up or if because the conversation was kind of becoming confrontational. He said, "Do you want to talk about this in the garage?" And I said, "Sure, I'll talk about this in the garage." So we got to the garage and I'm like, what's the problem? And he said, "Well, we've heard that you guys are saying that y'all think that my daughter had something to do with Kirby's death." And I said, "Well, actually, we haven't said that. And at this point, we hadn't." Right. You know, and I was like, "Well, we haven't said that. And I don't know who told you that." And I was like, "But you're not from here. We are. This is a small town. You're going to hear all kinds of crap because that's just how people talk." And he was like, "Well, okay." And Mom comes out. We have a long conversation. And then Mama says, "Now, can I go back in here and do what I came here to do?" And he says, "Sure, you can." And she goes into the safe room, and I can hear her attempting to access the safes, and they're beeping instead of opening. And we realized that the codes to the safes have been changed at that point. And of course, when we asked him what happened, who changed the codes to the safe? Who did this? Everything we asked, I don't know. I don't know. At the same time that we were there, the area where Kirby's house is, phone service is not great. It's kind of out in the boonies. My phone was almost dead, and I had texted my husband and told him, we've kind of had a little confrontation down here. If you don't hear from us shortly, just come check on us. Well, my mom's phone completely died. She had it on a charger in Kirby's room. And I didn't even realize it, but a friend of hers had been trying to contact both of us and couldn't get either of us. And so she had called my stepdad, and she was like, I think y'all need to go to Kirby's and check on Maddie and Kaysie because I can't get in touch with them. And of course, nobody knew anything that was going on down there or anything. Well, my husband and stepdad arrive, and my husband walks in, and he's like, what's going on down here? Why are locks being changed and safe codes being changed? And the girlfriend's dad's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And of course, the girlfriend's not even there at the time. So my stepdad's having a conversation with the girlfriend's dad in the living room. I'm overhearing the conversation. My mom had walked outside through the garage right past Kirby's truck. So I'm just going to go ahead and share this. The girlfriend's dad's vehicle was backed next to Kirby's truck, like where the other garage door is, but the garage door wasn't up, it was down. And when my mom walked by, just intuition told her to check his trunk. And when she did, it was full of canvas bags full of silver, which would have come from Kirby's safes.
Of course.
Wow. So there was a bit of confrontation.
What did he say when he was confronted?
He would not say anything. He would not acknowledge that they had changed anything, that they had taken anything, that they had opened anything. And of course, at this point, we don't know about his sketchy past.
Right.
I'll just go ahead and say that too. But I think he's probably not well known for taking responsibility for his wrongs. And in fact, he looked at my stepdad during this day, while we're down there and all this is going on, and he says to my stepdad, we're showing y'all grace. After all, y'all are in our home.
Okay.
And my stepdad
Nope. That's not her. No. Okay.
Right.
I'll let you finish before I say a few more things.
Yeah. So. And so my stepdad says, this is not your home, this is Kirby's home. And he says, we've been living here for 4 months. Did you leave us?
Sorry. No, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, that's okay. So it was very heated, I guess you could say. We ended up leaving. We did take some of the things that we felt like we needed to take to protect, and we went immediately on Monday morning, got an attorney. We turned those things in so that they would be there for the kids for the estate. But on Sunday night, Mom received a text from the girlfriend, and she was telling her, we need to talk about these things face to face. We need to get together and figure out, what we're going to do. So my mom gets in her car and goes down there. Wow. And she gets there. The girlfriend won't let my mom come inside, and she won't come outside to see my mom. My mom had already contacted law enforcement and told them she was coming down there, that she was going down there, and what had happened that day. And she was like, I don't want there to be problems and someone not be there.
Right.
And so she gets down there, and like I said, girlfriend won't come out. She won't let mom in. She doesn't want to talk about it. She was like, I didn't mean right now. So my mom tells the law enforcement officers, the ones that came, there were 2 of them. And she said, we were here earlier today. This is what happened. I popped the trunk. It was full of silver. And she said, I guarantee you, if we popped it again, it's going to be full again. And the officers were wonderful. They were like, this is a civil matter. We can't touch that trunk. It's on Kirby's property, whatever. So my mom opens it up, and it was loaded down again.
Oh my gosh.
That's really all I can say about that.
Mm-hmm.
because, like I said, I mean, law enforcement's aware of it. There's some certain things they could and couldn't do. I can't really say anything else about that. But, at that point, which was 2 days after Kirby's death, at that point, we had to start thinking,
Of course,
what's going on
you
here?
would have, I mean, you would have to think that, really honestly, from almost from the get-go, with everything that had transpired. Firstly, starting with the fact that she hadn't heard from Kirby since Wednesday and it was Friday. That alone would put up a red flag for me. And then
Right.
you've got all these other things that are happening that are like, what is happening here? What's going on? Did you tell the police about sort of all of this, the 2 times that you went in the trunks?
Absolutely. We told them about it, and they were there on Sunday night, the second time when it was loaded down. The police were there. They witnessed that themselves. So all of that happened, and we had to tell them, y'all can't be here, y'all can't stay here, But at that time, all we were thinking about was we've lost Kirby, and Kirby's kids have lost Kirby.
Right.
And,
Right.
that was his little girl's home.
Right.
And at no time did we think, even with that going on, at no time did we think, get your tail out. That was the baby's home.
Right.
And it was just, just unbelievable. I mean, really, there's so many facets to this story that are unbelievable.
I mean, there are.
So all of that happened on Sunday. Kirby's body had to be sent to Jackson or Pearl, Mississippi for autopsy, of course, to the crime lab. They were really backed up. They told us it could take quite a while. We weren't able to have his funeral until the 17th. We had his funeral on the 17th. And again, the girlfriend came, the dad came, the mom never showed up. She wasn't there. She didn't participate in any kind of way. We had a small little graveside service after the memorial service was over. When we left my church, the ladies there had prepared a big meal for us to come, and eat. We invited the girlfriend and her family to come. They chose not to. And a couple days later, they left. She called mom and told mom that she was going to be leaving to go to have Christmas with her grandmother. Her grandmother lives, is it okay? She lives in Pennsylvania. She said that she was going to go have Christmas with her. She's going to stay for a week or so and, have some time to whatever. They left, and the day that they left, this is another thing that I shared already on Facebook. This is not new information, but the day that they left, mom walked in after she was gone and walked through the house, checked things out. And before anybody says anything about it, mom was appointed to be the administratrix of his estate. And she was given a key to the home. She was there legally and has the right to be there at any time she chooses. But she went into the home and she walked into the bedroom and she opened the dresser drawers where she knew the girlfriend kept her clothes, just to kind of gauge, is she coming back or not? She opened the drawers, all the clothes were gone, but in one drawer, there was a handwritten will, of the girlfriend's and a handwritten will of the father's. We have no idea why they chose to leave those there. We have no idea what those were supposed to mean, but that's what she found. And she took pretty much all of her things, but ironically left the clothes and shoes that she wore to the funeral. Those were still at the home. I know that there's a lot of different creators have made videos, and some of those that I've seen has said that, they cleaned everything out of his home. They didn't clean everything out of the home, and there's no way really that could have happened. So he was found on Friday, and on Monday, mom and I went and we hired an attorney to represent the estate. And on Tuesday, we had to go start taking inventory of Kirby's things to prevent things from further walking away. And so our attorney, her attorney, the investigators, lots of people were there helping through that process, which was a nightmare in itself, on top of the grief that we were already in, and we were having to go through and list his things. to keep somebody from taking them.
Sure. Yeah, that's so sad. That's so sad. So sad.
Yeah, so we were dealing with all of that. But it's just, there's still lots of things left in the sackets, but there's a lot of things that were gone, that we know were gone. And, another thing that's been a big factor in our minds is, she hired one of the most well-known criminal defense attorneys in our area. If you're not familiar with the Faris law firm, it's definitely worth looking into. There's been some very high-profile cases that they've covered. The Mary Winkler case in Selmer, Tennessee, if you're not familiar with that, look it up. And I specifically asked her on that Tuesday when we were there, after he was found on Friday, on Tuesday when we were having to start the inventory and all, her lawyer shows up and I'm like, Tony Faris, really? And she says, I have to protect Enola's portion of the estate. And I said, yeah, I understand you need to protect her portion of the estate, but most people don't hire the Farises to do so, but whatever. But we at that point, we started making inventory of everything so that things couldn't continue to walk away. Her hiring an attorney in itself, is not a problem. Innocent people do get accused of things all the time. People do need attorneys. She immediately, after she got out of the car with the MBI investigator, stated that, do I need an attorney?
First thing she asked.
But what I don't understand is, she showed up with that criminal defense attorney on Monday and has refused to cooperate since. Yeah. It's not the fact that she got an attorney, because you can get an attorney and continue to cooperate. Right. The girlfriend has not once reached out, hey, are they any closer to figuring out who killed my baby's father? Are they any closer to figuring out who killed the person that I loved? Right. She's not. She has a little boy that has a different mother than her, and she has taken it upon herself to hire her own attorney to ask these questions, and she's been on the investigators. We've got to figure something out. She's been as devastated as we have, and we haven't seen that from the girlfriend. And then for a while after she first left, we were keeping communication open. We could text and ask about the baby. She would respond. Now, she wasn't going to respond to anything else, and that's fine. And then there was a brief time period where we didn't reach out. And there was reason for that. Like I said, there's a lot of things that we can't talk about still, but, there was a reason that we didn't reach out for a brief time period. Enola turned 1 year old on July 23rd. I sent a message. I shared that on Facebook. You all can see it if you want to look. I just wanted to wish her a happy birthday, and hear from her. And that whole week, I kept continuing to try to reach out. And, I just got this feeling like, why is she not responding to us? Like, we haven't done anything. I'm just trying to check on my niece. And not getting any response. So at that point, I called to the sheriff's office at the county where the home is that she supposedly, we felt like, was at with her parents, where mom is sending the monthly child support check to, and requested a welfare check. I told them, what had happened here, that my brother had gotten killed, that my niece was with her mom, that we were not sure their whereabouts, but that we're sending, the money like we're supposed to every month to her, at this address, and asked them, could they go check it out for us? They were very, very nice and helpful. They told us, sure, we'll give you a call back. That area doesn't have good cell reception. Give us a couple hours. He calls back and he says, ma'am, I'm sorry, it has burned to the ground.
That to me is like, when I heard that, I said, if this person wasn't guilty before, and I can say these things, I know you guys, if this person wasn't guilty before, you got to think they're guilty now. Why in the hell is that house burned down? But the mailbox is still standing.
The mailbox is standing, but the house is burned down. He did tell me some more information that did not come from the police department there, but from some others in town. regarding that situation. And I mean, everyone thinks, you know, that there's foul play there.
Of course.
I don't know what the purpose would be. I don't know if it was for insurance purposes, if it's to rid of evidence. I don't know what that would be, but it's very interesting, I guess you could say.
I will say that what I have seen, and I agree with this, and I actually said it on mine, is that some creators have said that they think that because they couldn't get insurance with the other house, with Kirby's house, they took as much as they could from Kirby's, put it in that house, got it reevaluated for insurance, and then the house burned down for insurance reasons because it was worth more. I mean, that to me makes so much sense. Like, why else would the mailbox be standing but their house is burned down? No sense whatsoever. No sense.
You know, there's so many different things, and there's tons more that I can't talk about. And I'm sure there's even more than that, you know, that the investigators are aware of that they're not able to share with us. Sure. You know, to protect the integrity of the investigation, and we understand that. But you know, there's still so many other things that I haven't even shared on Facebook or shared with anyone. For instance, I'll share it with you guys while we're on here tonight. So Kirby, everyone that knows Kirby, everyone that was close to Kirby, everyone that he did business dealings with, every store that he frequented daily, everyone knows that Kirby always carried a small pistol in his right pocket, always. In fact, in October, him, his girlfriend, little boy, baby, me and my little girl, we went to the pumpkin patch together. And I even made the comment to him, like, hey, you don't need that at the pumpkin patch. Take that out of your pocket, you know. And he's like, you never know. He was like, you know, you need good guys with guns. Yep. But he always had that gun in his pocket, and we haven't been able to locate the gun.
Really interesting.
Yes, very interesting.
So it wasn't on him. It was not on his persona.
It was not on his person when he was found. You know, which leads us to believe that he probably pulled the gun. You know, at the point that he was ambushed or felt threatened, or you know, whatever happened that night. And you know, it's so hard to think about that because we don't know what happened. Right. But that gun's missing. And it's very interesting, to say the least, I guess, because, you know, that's one of the first things that we all thought about was like, well, where's his gun? You know, where's Kirby's little gun that he always had in his pocket? Because it's not here anywhere. And so, in fact, on that Tuesday when we were down there with investigators and lawyers and we were working on the inventory, and the investigators were there actually trying to find the sink box that no one had located.
I think that's important. I think that's Kate. Let me just stop you really quick because a lot of people are asking about this. I think that's very important. This is a very important part. A lot of you guys have been asking about videos, Ring cameras, Nest cameras. Did he have some? Yes. Right. A part of the camera, the sync part of the camera, correct, is missing or was out.
Yes, it was missing. Yeah, it was missing. And
prior to this, right? The cameras were being used up until this time.
As far as we know. In fact, the girlfriend told the office that sometimes Kirby would be gone and would talk to the baby through the cameras, and that she would look around to see where he was. You know, but the sync module that goes inside the home is what keeps the cameras, you know, all communicating. But without the sync box, the cameras don't work, and it was missing. And so they were there looking for that inside the home at the same time that we were doing inventory of his belongings. And my mother had been outside with the investigator from the MBI, and she had asked him several times, you know, what about Kirby's gun? Like, Kirby has a gun missing. He always had this small pistol in his pocket. And so I was actually inside in the living room at the time. The girlfriend was there. Her attorney was there. The MBI investigator comes in and he says, hey, y'all's mom keeps asking about a gun that Kirby carried in his pocket. And Kirby's girlfriend turned around and she said, they keep saying that, but he hasn't done that since me. I don't know what they're talking about. He hasn't carried that gun since me.
And he had it at the pumpkin patch. You just said he had it in October at the pumpkin patch.
He did, and you know, like I said, you can ask anyone around that businesses he frequented, people that he did, you know, frequent gold and silver deals with. Everyone knew he carried that gun in his pocket. In fact, I have a picture of him leaning against my kitchen counter. I think it was like in April or May of last year, that you can clearly see it. Like, it's not something new.
Right.
But that gun is missing, and we kept trying to reiterate that to investigators. The gun is somewhere. Kirby pulled that gun. I don't know if he pulled it and he shot someone, shot at someone. There was no evidence of that there that we found, but the gun's missing. And we know that he had 3 bullets for it in his pocket. So why would he have had the bullets in his pocket if he did, if he hadn't had the gun?
Right. Was that
and
gun, by any chance, was the gun the same gun was shot to kill Kirby?
No.
Okay. And they never found that weapon, the gun that was used on Kirby.
Well, it's not that. The type of gun that he was killed with is not traceable. So it could, if it would have been there at the home, we still wouldn't have known what gun killed him.
What do you mean it's not traceable?
So he was killed either with a shotgun or a gun that shoots a shotgun shell. So I guess the difference, and I'm no gun expert, but like with a pistol, they make specific markings on the bullets that they shoot. So you can trace a bullet to any pistol that it was shot from. But a shotgun, when that bullet is shot, it releases a whole bunch of pellets.
Gotcha. Oh, yes. I know what you're saying. Okay. Yes, that makes sense. Yes. Yep. That makes sense.
The particular gun can't be traced. And I'm sure whoever did this knew that.
Sure. Yeah, they were smart about it. There's so much to this case, Kaysie, and I really appreciate that you gave the extensive detail that you did with everything. There's a couple of things that I want to say that I think are very interesting that we can talk about. And we can get into the questions and everything. I know you guys have a lot of questions. One, I think it's very suspicious that the first thing she said was that he killed himself. Sorry, I know we're not supposed to say that he unalived himself when he was covered with something. So how would that even be possible? I think that's very suspicious. I also think it's very suspicious that she chose to go back to the home alone when there was still allegedly a person out there who was the word I can't say, and she went home and wasn't nervous about that at all. Like, that would have been my first thought, was like, this person could come back. So
yeah, I was comfortable going down there afterward. And, I wasn't going there to live, and I wasn't going there to stay, and I wasn't taking, my 4-month-old baby down there. And I was scared when I went back to mom's the next morning. I was scared for them. We all thought that was very strange.
Yes, and I agree with that completely. And the other thing that I think is extremely strange, and a lot of people have picked up on this in the comments as well, is if this happened Wednesday night or whatnot. Now, she wasn't there allegedly when it happened, or she wasn't there
at the time that they believe that it happened, because they think he returned home around 7 p.m., according to his text messages to and from her, and a camera that was at a nearby place that saw his truck come through. They think he made it home around 7 p.m., and she was not home at that time. And they think that this happened at the time he came home because of his groceries still being in the truck. Of course, that could be off time-wise, but that's what they believe.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that is for all the people who are saying she couldn't hear the pow-pow go off. That is why she was not there at the time. Allegedly. The other thing I want to bring up, there's a couple of things that I think is important that we bring up. One, based on the information that I have seen and read about this incident with Kirby, it appeared as if something that it actually maybe happened in the garage, because the garage was sort of in disarray, and there actually looked to be like blood marks smeared on the ground. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So first of all, there was a stray dog that had come up, and Kirby had been taking care of her for a few months. They had named her Lucy, and Lucy, it did not matter. Anytime you went down there, she was going to have some things scattered through the yard, towels, clothing, something she was going to drag up from somewhere, and things would be scattered. So with that being said, this is not exactly what you asked. We also, how did he lay there with that covering over him as neatly as it was without the dog messing with him or the covering? That's another question we have. But yes, the garage, there was a trash can in the middle of the garage, like a small trash can. It was turned over. There was like some cans and some trash scattered through the garage there. But from about the place where that trash can laid all the way to the end where the gravel began, where the concrete of the garage ended and the gravel began, there was a brown streak down the middle that law enforcement said was a drag mark. Blood. It was blood. And like I said, she told us that she did come and go through that garage to and from her vehicle multiple times on Thursday and Friday.
Completely. That's sort of a big red flag to me is seeing, or see the fact that the garage was a mess and there was that bunch of blood that they said was blood, a blood trail. I think that is, not to mention the fact, which everybody is picking up on this, is the fact that, she had said that he was gone since the last time she saw him was Monday morning, but you don't call anyone until Friday and say, I haven't seen Kirby since Wednesday. What's the deal with this? Like, where could he possibly be? The other thing I wanted to say is that the girlfriend also, the police asked her twice if she would take a lie detector test and she refused. Is that correct, Kaysie? Twice?
They haven't told us that they asked her twice to take a lie detector test. They told us that she did refuse a lie detector test, and that she had an attorney present and that she refused questioning.
Yeah, that to me all looks suspicious. I mean, to me, that's just, there's so many red flags in this. Many people are asking if Kirby's phone was actually plugged in his car, in his truck, correct? When it happened?
When he was found on Friday, the truck doors were locked and the phone was on the charger inside of his truck.
So the truck door was locked, even though he hadn't gotten the groceries out of the groceries from Kroger were still in the truck, yes. Which is ridiculous. Many people want to know how long Kirby and the girlfriend were together.
So it was sometime between 2 and 3 years. I've tried to think back and know exactly when it was. I don't know exactly when it was, but it's going to be between 2 and 3 years.
Okay. And I think it's important, if you guys haven't seen any of the videos that are on the Justice for Kirby Facebook page, and I've taken a lot of them and put them in my stories. I have a whole folder story of Kirby at the top, is that the girlfriend, when she said she was going up to look in the deer stand, because that was the thought, maybe he was up there, maybe something had happened to him in the deer stand, maybe he had a heart attack, maybe something had gone wrong up in the deer stand. Well, she allegedly went up to the deer stand through very thick terrain. It was like she would have had to go through a ditch. It would not have been easy. In fact, there's video of that's in the ditch.
It is.
It's in the ditch. Yeah, in the ditch. Kaysie was in there and she had to pull herself up with a tree. But the girlfriend was carrying a baby and also had this very old dog with her.
She didn't claim to have the dog, but she did claim to be wearing the baby.
Wearing the baby, and I want you guys to go look at the terrain, because I mean, Kaysie, you did it. I mean, how hard was that just for you to get that ditch? It was
very difficult. It was, in fact, I didn't know that I was going to be able to get down in the ditch and get out of the ditch. And we didn't know that the ditch was there, obviously, until we started trying to walk it after this happened. And the first few times that we tried to walk straight up the hill where she claims to have walked, we still haven't made it up that hill. We had to go a whole different route to get there. The strange thing, I guess, about that, or one of the many strange things about that, is when you walk out that back door there, Kirby's side-by-side was parked right there. So, yes. If you needed to go to the deer stand, all you had to do was get the side-by-side key and ride up there. It's just so many strange things that just point to be an untruth. They're lies.
Doesn't add up. I think it's we need to tell a little bit of background. So we talked about the girlfriend and the fact that her parents were with them for 4 months and allegedly left the day before Kirby was pew-pewed. I hate that I can't say the word, which is interesting in itself. And that when she did leave and you all did a wellness check on the baby, the home was burned down. Now, did firefighters say that the home was arson? Was that the cause of the fire?
That I don't think that that's been determined. I don't know. All they told us was that the home was no longer there, that it had burned down, that all that was left standing was the mailbox. You know, um, we're not involved necessarily in that type of investigation. I know the investigator here has talked to them there. I don't know what they've determined about that. Of course, you know, in our minds, we all can't help but question that.
Right. Do you know where the family is now? The baby
No.
is.
No.
That is heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking for a variety of reasons. You want to make sure that baby is safe, first and foremost. What about the child support checks? Can you not trace them to see where they are?
That is something that's being done. The child support checks for June and July have been cashed, and they're being mailed to the home that burnt. So I guess we're just kind of waiting to see what happens with August.
Have you guys thought about stopping sending those, or do you think it's kind of a good way to track her?
Well, we haven't. Mom's not going to stop sending them because, you know, she feels like it's the right thing to do for the baby. And I mean, there's a court order because that's what was agreed upon, you know, for her to send those. I mean, at this point, you know, I mean, the money belongs to the kids anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah, his two kids are going to get them.
You know, ideally, and that's another thing that we got a lot of scrutiny for on Facebook. You know, people, why are you continuing to send checks? You know, why are y'all sending child support in the first place? She's getting SSI. You know, that's just something that, you know, Mom had talked to the attorney about from the beginning. You know, she was like, she specifically was talking about, you know, Kirby had been paying child support for his little boy, and she was like, you know, I don't want to just cut that off. You know, I know they're going to be getting SSI, and the child support checks are only for a short amount of time. It's not something that's going to continue on and on. But I mean, it's at this point we're still continuing to send.
Ange just said Kaysie mentioned draining the pond. Is that something you can talk about?
I'm sorry?
Ange just said mention draining the pond.
Okay.
Is that something you can talk about?
Yeah, so Kirby has, I mean, there's over 100 acres of land there. On that land, he does have a pond, a pretty large pond. We have talked to law enforcement about this. You know, we don't know that anyone went to the pond or went through the woods or went to the deer stands or anything, but we have mentioned the fact that maybe the pond needed to be drained, considering the fact that Kirby's pistol is missing. Yeah. You know, we had a case, a very high profile case near us. It was actually like an NBA player or somebody disposed of a gun in a lake that was found, you know, like 20 miles from where we live. Wow. And so, of course, you know, one of our first thoughts was, you know, he's got a pond down there. There could be something in it. That's not been done at this point. You know, so I'm going to say this. So the investigator working this case here has been wonderful. Between Mom and I, literally, we blow his phone up. He's probably sick of hearing from us, but he never ignores our calls. If he can't get to us right then, he's going to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'll call you back, and he does. There hasn't been a single time that we've called him and pointed something out to him that he hasn't come and handled it, come and investigated it. But we are a small county. We have very limited resources here. I feel like there's a lot of things that I don't want to make it feel like he's dropped the ball. I don't feel like that. I think that there's a lot of things that if he had the resources to do so, could be beneficial in helping us find answers. And you know, there may be nothing at all to the pond, but we did think about if the pond was drained, you know, we might be able to find, there may be something there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's very valid point. And why not check every possible place that you can check? Because it is suspicious that both pistols are missing.
Yeah.
That, again, another red flag. Let's talk a little bit about the father. We know that the father, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to also make the point while we're talking about the pond and the land. You know, we know that Kirby had a lot of game cameras. And Kirby's neighbor who lives next door to him verified to us, you know, that he also knew that Kirby had a lot of game cameras, but we have searched the property and we haven't found a single one. My husband did find a strap where one had been, you know, I don't know if Kirby took that down or if it was taken down by someone else. But we've literally found no other game cameras. And he had lots of cameras down there. That's just how he was. Most hunters do that. And how he would protect his land and protect his things, he typically had a lot of cameras and things like that. And like I said, we haven't found any of those either. But yeah, you can go ahead about the dad.
So, the girlfriend's father is not the nicest, most honorable man as there is. He actually had a felony and was in prison for. Okay, I'm gonna try to tell this story the best that I can. I remember there was a huge deer. It was like an 8-point buck or something like that. I don't know deer that much.
Okay.
Deer talk. I don't know hunting.
So at some point, he owned a deer farm where people would like pay to go and hunt these big game deer. And so there was another deer farm in another state, and they had like the world's biggest whitetail deer that had ever been recorded, like 68 points, or I don't know what it means,
Wow.
but anyway.
That's what I'm like. I knew there were some points.
Yeah.
I knew there were like some big ones. His name was Goliath.
It was Goliath. And so he actually went to this other state, to this deer farm during the night, and tranquilized the deer, cut a hole in the fence, and drug the deer out and stole it and took it to his farm. And it's my understanding from reading the articles, and you can look this up. It's all over, you can Google it, and there's all kinds of articles about it. This is all factual. So he stole this deer, he took it to his deer farm so that he could breed bigger deer. And it's my understanding that the deer was there for a period of a few years, and then these two hunters finally came, they saw it, they recognized it, and they were like, hey, I think that's the deer that was stolen from this other deer farm. So they call that deer farm the owners, and they get, game, whatever they are, wildlife game involved, and they go and they take this deer and figure out that it's the stolen deer. And it's our understanding that even after it he swore that he bought it from an Amish farmer, and even after being proven guilty, basically denied that he did it. But he had in the article that I read, it said he had like over 200 charges at one time related to that incident.
I mean, so we're not working with the most, clean-cut, honest man out there by any means.
Right, and I mean, I'm sure that took a lot of planning. That's something that you had to have planned that out pretty strategically to be able to. I mean, I don't know how you drag a whole deer from somebody's deer farm, and it's the biggest deer of that kind. I don't understand how that happens, but it had to be very strategically planned. And I'm going to tell you, because I know my brother, he was not going to be, my brother was always aware of his surroundings. He's not someone that was going to be taken down easily in any kind of way. And whoever did this to him, it was also very strategically planned.
Oh, yeah. Whoever did it to Kirby, you mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Did Kirby and his girlfriend get along? Like, did you know if they were like on the midst of breaking up or anything?
I mean, they had times where they, didn't have the best relationship, but they had just had a baby. She nor he had said anything to me about not being together, about not wanting to be together. We're not aware of it if either of them were planning on them not being together. We have been told some things, obviously, since this happened, that I'm not going to share because we haven't verified those at this time. But it was brought to our attention that there is a possibility that she could have had plans to leave. And we don't, like I said, we don't know if that's true or not.
Is her family from Pennsylvania?
Her father's family's from Pennsylvania, and her mom and dad lived in Virginia, is what we were told. When they started dating.
In Virginia?
Yes.
Has anybody gone to Virginia looking for them? Or if you can't say, you can say I can't, but.
Not to my knowledge.
Did Kirby and her father get along?
They did get along. Kirby, it's really hard for me to think about this or talk about this, but Kirby had made the comment several times to several different ones of us. There's just something about her dad, I just don't trust him. And Kirby didn't trust a lot of people anyway. And I mean, Kirby, he acquired a lot of wealth. And so I understand why he felt that way.
Sorry. I'm going to I'm sorry.
You're fine. So I feel like I never knew of them to have any issues with one another, but I do know that Kirby had made the comment to us several times that there was just something about him, he didn't trust him.
And what about, sorry, go ahead.
And, Kirby had told us, several times, he actually he had talked to us about finding them a place to stay down here, like a house or something, if they wanted to stay, because he had made the comment to us, my house is big, but no house is big enough for 2 families. And he said, it's been nice to have help, but it's time for them to go. And that was a couple months before this happened. So, and we don't know, he never told us, that he had told them they needed to leave, or that he had told the girlfriend that her parents needed to leave. He had never told us that, but he had made the comment to us several times that, he was just ready, to have his family there. He had a new baby, his little boy that he got every other week. And I think he was just ready for it to just be them there, I mean, and I get that.
Yeah, I mean, 4 months is a very long time to stay, like, after your newborn comes home. I mean,
Right.
He just wants his family there. That makes a lot of sense. It seemed as if Kirby did a lot for the community, was very sort of a community man. And I'm going to bring this up, and you don't have to answer it, but I think that it's important to address. On several comments left on my page, on the Facebook, and I think they're probably just trolls, which is why I want you just... People were saying things that Kirby owed people money, that could have been the reason, and that someone bought a liquor store, or he bought a liquor store from someone and he didn't pay for that. What is there anything you can say about that?
Okay, so I will address that. So the only incident that we're aware of, or that law enforcement has been made aware of, there was an incident where Kirby bought a diner several years ago. And there was an incident where there was something posted on Facebook about Kirby owing that man $5,000. During that Facebook conversation, there was someone related to that person that he bought the diner from who was making threats, I guess, to Kirby at that time. But that's been... The person who was making the threats passed away 2 years ago with COVID. So it's not felt that this is related to that in any kind of way. As far as him owing anyone else money, we've not heard that from anyone else. That's the single only incident that we're aware of that accused him of owing them money. Now, we do know that there was another issue of someone that owed Kirby a large amount of money. But I can't imagine where that would be an issue where Kirby, that would result in Kirby's death. But that's that's the only dealing that I'm aware of. And like I said, that was looked into by law enforcement, and the person that was making the threats on that thread, unfortunately, he passed away a couple years ago.
Okay, good. I think that's important to sort of clear up, because I think people need to know that there are trolls out there. There are people out there that you can have, you can say the sky is blue and they'll say the sky is green. So I think that that's really important to sort of point out. So are there any suspects right now at this time that the police have told you about?
I don't know that they've named anyone a suspect. I think they have some persons of interest. But that's really all I can say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. In regards to the girlfriend and the baby, we know that his 2 children obviously would be the benefactor of all of majority of his stuff. Do we know if the girlfriend was in his will or left anything?
So he actually didn't have a will. He had a will drafted, a couple years ago, but he never had gone back and signed it. So it was not valid. Like I said, Kirby had always told me and Mom that he would have those things in his safe for us to, to sort through. And of course, they weren't there at the point that the safes were able to be opened with the lawyers present. But there was nothing naming the girlfriend in anything. Kirby did have a life insurance policy that it was not left to her. It was left to someone else. And like I said, no will. So the court appointed our mother the administratrix of his estate. Of course, that just means, that she's over everything for the time being. And of course, all of the money will be split and put into trust for the children.
Sure. And that's the right thing to do with the money. Have you talked to first of all, is the FBI involved in this?
Not to our knowledge.
Even though go ahead.
Yeah, in fact, we had someone in law enforcement here to tell us that the FBI was not interested in helping in this case.
Did they say that seems a little bit ridiculous to me? Did they give you a reason?
No, they didn't.
Okay.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I mean, that's something, and now since we are looking at, possible crimes in multiple states, that's my assumption, I guess. I feel like it is something that's going to be pushed for, is for the FBI to be involved.
Yeah, I mean, I would think, especially since there is a baby still a baby, a 1-year-old involved. Have you talked to the police, like about your local police, about the fact that the baby is gone and you haven't seen the baby in a year, almost a year? Have you guys? What are the police saying about that?
I mean, there's not really much been said about that. They are in contact with some people in attempts to find out exactly where the baby is. And that's really all I can say about that right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of sense. I want to just also make it known that, there's this huge outpouring of support for justice for Kirby. It was mentioned that you need help with the pond, draining the pond. Is that something what can people are asking how they can support you besides spreading the word? They want to help. Besides, like I said, just spreading the word. What can people do to help you and your family?
I'm not really sure at this point. That is something that we can talk to investigators about for sure. I mean, it may be something that we could use some help with. If the issue there is resources. So that's something I can definitely get back to you about.
Yeah, that would be great. If you're comfortable, we'll open up the box and have some people come up and ask questions. If you're comfortable with that, we'll start. If people are interested in coming into the box and actually asking Kaysie some questions, guarantee that your question will be answered then if she can answer it. I encourage you guys to just hit that you want to be a guest. One of the things that was asked a lot of times was, where does Kirby's girlfriend have an alibi? I think we talked about that. We said that she was not home at the time. You figured that out based on the time that he finished Kroger, the one camera that saw his car. So she does have an alibi, correct? She was not at the house. Okay, perfect. Okay, there's a couple of people who want to come in. So Ange is coming in first. You guys, again, feel free to check if you guys want to ask questions. Hey, Ange.
Hey, I just had one quick thing to say to Kaysie, because I'm sure she hasn't been really looking at the comments too much. There's a girl commenting, and I'll message you this later too, that I guess the U.S. Marshals have said that they'll help with getting the pond drained, and that you're supposed to contact them. I'll send you all the contact info here, after this is done. So that's a good thing that came out of this.
That's great, Ange. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's it. That's all I wanted to say. You're doing great, Kaysie.
Here comes Brat. Brat's going to ask a question. Ange, you can drop down.
Yeah, I am bitter by your story. This is just awful, but you know what? I'm so glad that you came on Cindy's live tonight and said all of this. It's just really eye-opening, and there's a lot of us internet sleuths out there that want to help. But my question was about the alibi. So I guess you already said as much as you could, correct, about that? Is it like solid? Is her alibi like solid, or is it like, hey, she was at a friend's house?
The alibi is solid, verified by law enforcement. I guess the only issue with it is that if the timing were to be off of when they think he was killed, there is a possibility that if he was killed at a later time, she could have been there. But at the time that they are pretty certain it happened, she has a solid alibi.
Was she supposed to go home that night?
She did go
She
home
did
that
go
night.
home. She slept at home Wednesday and Thursday night at the house.
Okay. Interesting. And she didn't ever see him. I mean, this just sounds so ridiculous. I am so sorry, Kaysie. All right, well,
Thank you so
prayers for your family. We'll all try and do the best we can to help. So
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. If you want to jump down. I don't know why so many people are asking about the groceries. I don't think that that's relevant at all. I mean, do you, Kaysie, if there's something you want to say and you feel it's important about the groceries?
I mean, I think the most important thing about the groceries is the fact that them being still in the truck makes us pretty certain that he was killed immediately when he got out of the truck. Otherwise, he would have taken those in. I think I saw a comment earlier. Someone was asking what the groceries were. He had 4 steaks in there. I don't know if the intent was for those to be cooked that night. I don't know. We don't know what the intent was, but he came home with 4 steaks and a few other things, and that's what was still in the truck.
Okay, we will let you guys, if you want to ask questions, please jump in the guest box and we'll let you in. Kenzie, do you have a question?
Yes, that was my question. It was mistakes were bought when the parents were still there, or had they left?
So it was told to us by the girlfriend that the parents left on Tuesday night. Kirby was in Kroger on Wednesday night buying the steaks. We don't.
Why would he buy 4 steaks if there's only him and the girlfriend? Because there's no way a 4-month-old baby can eat a steak.
We've wondered the same.
That's really all I had to ask.
Thanks, Kenzie. You guys, if you want to jump in the box, if you have questions, I know someone in the question, do the parents have an alibi?
So the parents say that they left the state on Tuesday night. And that's really the only alibi they have. I think that it was confirmed that their car possibly left the state on Tuesday night, but I don't think the time that he was killed, there is a confirmed alibi.
Okay, so we don't know that for sure. And so,
Right.
And Ange just said it was buy one get one free for the steaks. Maybe that's why. So there's no confirmation to see, like, video or cameras along the highways or anything, or maybe police are looking at that right now. We just don't know.
Yeah, so I live fairly close to a fire department, and law enforcement went immediately within the next couple of days after this, and they pulled the footage from there. And they did confirm how many vehicles went down the road that night and what type of vehicles those were. I don't have all of that information, and it's not something that we can share. But they did confirm that Kirby's vehicle went down the road, and they also know what other vehicles went down the road and how many and what time, if that makes sense.
And any information yet with the phones? None of the. I mean, she hasn't. There's no need to have turned anything in yet, right? Like they haven't, because no one has been subpoenaed, or subpoenaed, or not. That's not the right word. Warranted, like a warrant to check, not warrant either. What the hell is the word I'm looking for, you guys? You know what I'm trying to say? When they, like a search warrant, but a search warrant for the phones.
I believe the investigators have done that already.
They they looked at all of the phones.
Yeah.
Someone asked if a U-Haul was used, and I actually read in one of the comments and reported on this that a neighbor of Kirby said that he saw a U-Haul go down the street on Thursday and turn around in his driveway. Is there anything about that you can?
When we put the Facebook page up, that was the first that we had heard about a U-Haul being there during the time frame of Kirby's, between him being killed and being found. That's the first we had heard of that. That's something that's being looked into. We do have confirmation of a U-Haul being there around the date of the funeral, which was a couple weeks later. So I don't really have any further information on that, because that's something that we're just now being able to look into.
Okay. Hot Mess Express, thanks. Do you have a question?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I was wondering if she could repeat what the last text message was to him. That cut out, and I didn't hear that. Like, what was the last text to her from him?
So the last text to her from him, she asked him where he was, and he said Geno's, which is a tire place that's about a 15-minute drive from his house. And then I don't remember, I'd have to look at it, and I can't look at it while I'm on here right now, but I can't remember exactly what was said after that, but it was related to where his location, basically. She was letting him know, he was letting her know his location.
And that was on Wednesday.
Correct.
And that was on Wednesday. Did she have, I know that she said, like, one of the things she did was call one of his friends after she called your mom to see if he happened to be with him. What is her reason? Did she have a reason for saying that she didn't think that it was suspicious that she hadn't seen him since Wednesday? Or I know she said, well, Kirby sometimes does things like this, but what was her reasoning for that?
So she never really gave us a reason for that. And, we do know that there was times where, he would meet people at odd hours, strange time of the day. Somebody would call, like, it might be 8 o'clock at night. Hey, can you meet me? I've got some gold or silver or some coins I want you to look at, that kind of thing. And so there was times that there were periods of time that she didn't know where he was, but Kirby never stayed gone all night. And for sure would not have stayed gone away from the baby for 2 days, So I think the biggest question in all of that in our minds is, not necessarily the fact that she hadn't talked to him, but, if it had been from a morning to an afternoon that she had not heard from him, none of us would have questioned that.
Sure.
But the fact that 2 nights you slept at home without him in the bed, without him there, and you didn't say to anyone, Kirby didn't come home all night, where we all would have been, what do you mean he didn't come home last night? We would have sent out the search parties.
Exactly. Did the silver that was in the father's trunk ever get returned to Kirby?
So it was, part of it was removed. Yes, what was removed from the trunk was taken to the attorney's office, and it was placed with the other valuables from the that has been auctioned at this point, and then there are actually still going to be more upcoming auctions.
And that was going to be the next question. Does the estate, like the house where it all happened, you still have access to that? You all still have access to that?
Yes, we do. Like I said, we've had, there has been an auction for all of his vehicles, farm equipment, all of those kind of things. All of his rental properties have been sold. A lot of the home things that were there, furniture, collectibles, things like that have been sold. But we still have all of his instruments. We still have the home and the property there. So there's still other things that are going to be upcoming that are going to have to be sold. But for now, yes, we still have access.
People have been asking this, and I'm sure you probably don't know, but was there any talk of the girlfriend being unfaithful to him?
Not from Kirby. Not from Kirby to us. That has been a question that has arisen from some since that time. It's not something that's been confirmed at this time.
And people are asking about the text messages from her. There were quite a few text messages on Kirby's phone and missed calls, correct, when you got the phone out of his car?
Yes, there was. Yeah. Kirby, it was nothing in any given day for him to have hundreds of calls and messages anyway because of his businesses. But, and that brought up another question to us. His phone was plugged in his truck there. And, if she was calling or anyone was calling and texting constantly, if you were in the garage, walking by the garage, at any point, did you hear the phone ringing inside his truck,
Were fingerprints taken of anything? what he was covered with, the toolbox, were fingerprints like taken at all?
They were.
DNA samples, anything?
Yeah, there was a lot of things taken. Some of that has returned and some of it hasn't yet.
Okay. It's an hour and 40 minutes, so I'm very cognizant of my guests' time when they're on here, because I know this has been difficult for you. I don't want to make this any harder for you, and you have been talking for an hour and 40 minutes. So I'm going to ask if you guys have any more. There has been a lot of questions. Actually, I'll ask this really quick. Have you thought about staking someone out at the mailbox to confront them?
That's not something we really want to talk about right now.
Okay, that makes sense. Is anyone else have any questions? Joey says he has a question, but he can't get up here. Let me try to invite him. Joey, you can ask it just, I guess, if you're having a hard time getting in here. Where were the keys to his truck? Someone just asked, because his truck was locked.
It was the key to his truck was found in his back pocket.
Okay. And his truck was locked, y'all, which is in and itself interesting. Thanks for all the love, you guys. Hi, nurse, for you too.
Hey, where was he found at? I missed the beginning.
Okay, so if you will go back to the Justice for Kirby Facebook page, there's a video of that, but just to explain it to you, when you drive up in the driveway and you're facing the garage, his truck was parked right before you pull into the garage. There's a metal carport to the right of his truck, and on the other side of the metal carport is where he was at.
Okay, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
I just had another question. I went out of my head, so that's okay. It must have been important. I do. I remember one more question is, when you saw him, I don't know if you saw him, and I know you said it's going to be a while for an autopsy. Did it look like there were any other injuries to him, like he might have been in a fight or anything else?
The only people that saw him before the funeral, at the time, of the scene when we were down there, the only people that saw him was my mom, my stepdad, law enforcement, and I'm not sure if the girlfriend saw him or not. So I didn't see him. We do have the autopsy results, and to my knowledge, there's not any signs of a struggle.
Okay. Ange is back. Hello, Ange.
Hey, yeah. So a lot of people are asking in the comments, Kaysie, about being able to report Enola as missing. I don't know how much you want to explain about that, but just to kind of give people an idea about how that whole process works. And that's it.
Yeah, so we are kind of in the process of checking into that, I guess you could say. I guess the issue with that is that when she left here, she left with her mother. And so it's kind of hard to file an actual missing persons report on her. Her mother is not responding to any attempts that we are making to text, call, any kind of attempts to check on her. But I think there are people who know possibly that the baby is okay. I don't know that. I don't really know what the process would be as far as getting her labeled as a missing person. When we talked to the investigators locally about that, we were kind of told that it was she's left with her mother, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah, that's why you can't do like an Amber Alert or anything, because, technically she wasn't kidnapped because the mom had rights to that child. Someone keeps asking about 360. Let me see. Did Kirby, did she have 360 life like on Kirby so she could track him?
Not that I'm aware of.
A lot of people are asking about the girlfriend's how she seemed, what she was like at the funeral. Was she emotional? Was she what was her sort of how was she acting?
So I've had a lot of people to tell me that they saw no emotion from her. I personally saw no emotion from her. Of course, I guess it was hard for me to pay attention to whether or not she was showing emotion because it was so hard for us. I will tell you that Kirby's little boy multiple times during the service walked to the casket, pulled himself up to look at his dad. And there was a couple times, of course, there's like at the place we had his service, there's like a family room here that we all sat in. She and the baby sat back there with us. And a couple times as his little boy was looking at him, I did look to her to see if she had any change in her emotions, and I didn't sense any.
Yeah, I know, Kaysie, that you can't say anything in regards to suspicions or anything. If anybody watches any of my videos, you know what I think, and I will say it. I feel that that her family needs to the girlfriend and the family needs to get brought in immediately for questioning. I think that without a doubt, the entire situation is. I think there were red flags right when she said that she walked up that hill, which we know she did not do. I mean, there's no way in hell. And so I think that especially the father needs to be brought in for questioning. There's too much suspicion around this, and it's
one thing that we've been, we haven't really understood why her parents weren't brought in for questioning immediately anyway, because they lived in the home with him for 4 months. So that is one of the things, that we feel like wasn't done, that should have been done. That's still not too late to be done. But yeah, we definitely feel like the parents need to be questioned.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Absolutely do. As you said, because they were there for 4 months before with her. And she was there for 2 nights without knowing where Kirby was. So she should absolutely be questioned, significantly questioned. Not just, hey, what was going on? Where were you? The things, it needs to be significantly questioned. And I know you said that the investigator is really being supportive. A lot of people, though, again, are asking what they can do to help.
I don't know how to answer that at this point. I think that there probably are a lot of things that can be done to help. And like I said, I'll get back with you on that. I'm not making any decisions on my own. Our family has had to support one another all through this. And from the day it happened, every single day through now. And so that's definitely something that I'll talk over with the rest of the family and the investigators and see, hey, what is it that we can get people to do to help speed this along?
Okay. Kaysie, I've kept you on for almost 2 hours, that's much longer than I wanted to, because I know this must be completely difficult. And I really cannot even for me. And I know what was a very difficult conversation, a very difficult interview for you to do. And I appreciate you allowing me to interview you and just being so kind and allowing you and telling your story to everybody who's been following. We were up to over almost 800 people at once. So there were quite a few people tonight who heard about Kirby.
Yeah, that's our goal. I didn't want to have to take this to social media, but social media these days is the way to get the word out for anything. Kirby, he deserves justice. He didn't deserve what happened to him. And I feel like, this has been extremely, extremely difficult for us. It's been extremely difficult for me to talk about. It's extremely difficult from day to day. I have days where I can talk about it fine. And then I have days where I just can't. And today I told myself, I know this is going to be hard, but it's the last thing that I can do for my brother, is to get justice for him. And I will fight, and my family will fight to the very end, because that's what he would do for us, and that's what he deserves.
Absolutely. And you said it with such grace, and I know that Kirby absolutely is looking down and just smiling at you all for doing all that you are doing. And I know you are going to get justice for Kirby. You have thousands of people praying for you, thousands of people praying for your family, for you all to get the baby Enola back, to you all to, have her be where she should be, which is back home with you guys. So with that, I will let you go now. I'll stay on for just another minute but I can't even thank you enough. You guys, I will say, while Kaysie is still on, please go follow the Facebook page, Justice for Kirby. I do have a bunch of stories up if you guys want to see it. I've done quite a few stories on it, and there's a lot of other TikTok creators who have done stories on Kirby as well. So thank you, Kaysie, so much for being here. I really appreciate you. This will be on my YouTube. I'll send you a message on that, though, Kaysie.
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for your support.
Thanks, Kaysie. Really appreciate it. Okay, so that was heart-wrenching. I mean, I think that everybody who watched, I can tell by your comments that you guys all agree probably with what I was saying about the family. I mean, it was completely, it's too suspicious. There's too many questions. It's just, there's too much going on in regards to this case. And if nothing else, I really feel very strongly that we need to get the word out about justice for Kirby, because we've got to put pressure on the cops, on the police. It would be great to have the FBI involved. We've got to find the baby. We have to get answers. And I really honestly think that, because this is one of those times where I say that social media is so good. There's times that social media has been really bad, but it's so good that you guys have been in here showing your support for her, and that you're going to continue to share the story and get some justice for Kirby. There's a bunch of questions still coming up that I will try to answer very, very quickly. Has anyone considered the mom, maybe why girlfriend and dad wrote wills? If anything, I think the mom wasn't involved at all, and that's why she took a step back, because she knew what was happening, but she took a step back and wanted to be as far removed from it as possible. That's what I think. That's why I think she wasn't at, didn't go to the funeral, wasn't at the home, all the things that she said that the mother was missing from. That's what I truly believe in regards to the mom. I think that the father, who has a criminal record, is the one who did this, my opinion. Thanks, Tiny Max. Yes, so both replays, I have started up my YouTube channel again, because that was really the only place that I could post Monday's interview. Is that, oh, I love it, Erica. Yes, go Bills. So both the entire interview from Monday with Turtle Boy Investigates and Boundless Millennial is on my YouTube channel, which is the exact same name, 716 GIRL in ATL, 716 Girl in Atlanta. I do have a YouTube channel. It's been used for like work, so you'll go on there and you're going to see like small business commercials, but hey, it's getting taken over with crime, I guess. So with that, like I said, my YouTube will have the entire interview. Thank you guys, by the way, so much for all the love. I saw the love you guys were giving me and Kaysie, so I really, really appreciate that. And go check that. It will be uploaded right after here. So I really, if you guys want to watch the whole thing, if you missed Mondays as well, that's there also. So with that being said, I just want to thank you guys as well, too, for watching, for both interviews, for being supportive, for being such awesome followers, for sharing stories, for, giving all the love. I really think that's awesome. Everybody keeps telling me I should do a podcast, so I'll think about it. And the other thing I want to say is this. I am an advocate for people like Kirby's family, for people like Sean Doherty's family, right, that we talked about. You guys have heard my story with Sean Doherty. If you guys have a story that you want me to check into, or a story where I can share it, where I can interview someone, where I am so happy to do that, shoot me a DM, because it's stories like Kirby's that isn't getting a lot of national news coverage that social media can help a lot with. So if there's a story you want me to check out, several of you had sent me some, which I'm going to, please shoot me a DM and I will absolutely look into it. And that's all I have to say, you guys. So thank you so much. Love you guys. Go follow Justice for Kirby. My YouTube is 716 Girl in ATL. It's in my link tree as well. So with that, we'll see you guys all next time.